So over here we have a couple more of the Ford and Lincoln Mercury Times stories that Dad illustrated in the 50s. Here's one called On the Prowl in Thistlevale, which is the artichoke country around Watsonville. And you have a nice double page spread there with three watercolors. And then you have a really special one. This smaller one is actually the Ford Times. The bigger format magazine was Lincoln Mercury Times because that was a more expensive line of cars. The Ford was like the sort of everyman's car, so the magazine, they spent less on the magazine as well, so the format is smaller. But this one is really special because here he's illustrating a story by William Saroyan called My Favorite Town, Fresno, California. And this was a collaboration between Saroyan and my dad that went on for about 2 to 3 years. And they probably did 5 to 6 different stories together for some other publishers as well. This one actually, what you see here, there are 2 copies of the same issue that allows us to see 2 of the double page spreads. However, there are actually a total of 12 pages in that story. So there are quite a few of my dad's. I think my dad had 7 or 8 paintings in that story. But here we're able to see 3 of them. And this was really a great collaboration. You know, my dad and Saroyan had a lot in common, but they hadn't known each other until this time when they were brought together by the publisher to work on these stories. There are 2 photos in here of my parents, and taken probably 4 or 5 decades apart. This one is right at the time they were married with this old Nash Roadster, and my dad's painting on a kind of tripod easel, and my mom's sitting on the car and she's reading to him. And this was going to be a pattern for the rest of their lives. They belonged to a book group with a lot of CSUF professors were also members, and they read all the sort of, you know, canon of Western literature. And my mom basically read all of it aloud to my dad while he painted over the years. So you have this picture, it's 1949 in black and white, and then you have this picture in color which is taken sometime during the 1990s, showing them basically the same thing. He's painting and she's sitting there reading. The black and white photograph was taken by an interesting person. Her name was Rue Ferris Drew, and she later became a photographer for Look magazine. But her husband, Bob Drew, was the pioneer of a style of filmmaking that's called cinema verite. He made a film in 1960 called Primary. It was about the Kennedy versus Nixon primary, and he followed the Kennedys. And the film had no script, it had no narration, it had no talking head interviews. There were only just shots of things going on and the characters talking with each other. There's a famous scene where Jack is talking to Bobby, and they had a camera crew in both cities. So they had both of them on the phone, and they were cutting back and forth. So Bob Drew and his wife together actually photographed my parents' wedding in black and white. And they took this photograph of my parents about the time that they were visiting Fresno at the time of the wedding. And so my parents' wedding album is shot by the pioneer of cinema verite, basically.